What can we in the declining West learn from a country like China, which is clearly in its ascendancy? What do we need to remember about ourselves so we can once again be great? Well, I've been here in Hong Kong for a week, and I've been a tourist, so I'm not going to pretend that I've done any sort of deep dive studies, but it gives you the opportunity to observe the people, the way things operate, read the daily newspapers, and you can pick up a sense of the place. Now, we get told in the West that this is an authoritarian surveillance state with social credit scores and oppressed people. Observing that from on the ground is simply not true. I'm seeing lots and lots of people, and they're not all just like scuttling off to work. They've got a lot of leisure time. They're all in Western clothes. They seem very happy. They're all doing the daily exercise, just getting on with daily life, enjoying themselves. That's what I'm seeing. I'm reading in the newspapers that there's the same concerns about geopolitics in the West, having this conflict between the United States, Russia, China. Everyone's concerned about it because the normal people across the world in civilized society, they just want to get by. They're all stuck to their phones like everyone else is in the West. They want to get by, earn some money, enjoy themselves, feel safe. And the point I said about civilized society is something that's really pertinent to us in Europe now and the West. Because what you also notice here is that, there's no antisocial behaviour. There's no groups of, young men hanging around on street corners, looking menacing, looking like they're going to try and steal from you or, worse, stab you or something. There's none of that. And unless there's police behind every street corner, which I've not seen. I think I've seen like 2 police whilst I've been here. They're doing it because they agree to abide by their set of norms, their rules. And a key thing for this is that we in the West have tried to import, some of the less uncivilized parts of the world to us. And obviously that's going to have a knock-on effect. Whereas we've always been a civilized nation based upon rules and order, the primacy of the police, authority. And we can accept that different cultures do things different ways. So China might not be everyone's cup of tea, but again, America might not be, or Britain might not be. But looking at it here, I feel that we're in a far more authoritarian surveillance state in the UK than I've experienced here. And I think it's because you've got to have a core belief system, a core set of values, which the people will come behind. And also, you need to have shared history, shared story, shared language, even shared appearance to an extent. But what you don't find here is everyone trying to break out from the rules. It's just they accept that the rules are there, they follow them, everyone stays in line, and you know what, they just get on with the day. Whereas for ourselves, we've become so draconian. We've imported mass numbers of uncivilized people to the country, and they want to espouse our beliefs with theirs because we don't have a central theme to all rally behind. So even somewhere like China, yes, it's a communist state, but that is their driving, motivating force. What do we have in Britain? We don't have anything. We used to have religion, Christianity, and that was the congealing factor amongst the whole of society. Just look around the country and everything is based upon Christian values. All of the buildings, all of the art, all of the laws, the freedoms, the tolerance that we have came from Christianity. And so the moment that we lost that and replaced it with the age of consumerism, celebrity, science, we didn't have anything to gel behind. And you know what happens when you have a vacuum? Someone else is going to come and fill it. And that's exactly what we're seeing with Islam now, because that has a coalescing force, something that unifies its people, the Ummah, and they want to come to the UK. And, for whatever reasons, they feel that it's their right to be able to usurp the natives and then place their belief structure, their religion, their social structures on top of the society, and that we're all just going to accept it. And, they've been greatly allowed to do this by our political class, which completely has lost its way as well. And I think that that's also something that you see by comparing to other countries. And this is why travel and experience in other cultures is really useful, because you can go and learn the good things and the bad things from those other cultures and bring them back to your own country. What you don't do is import en masse multiple cultures and basically give them a free-for-all and say, we are here for the taking. We're not even going to try and defend ourselves. And that's what ultimately I've reflected on over this week, because actually having this time to step away from the chaos and congestion of the information space in the UK and just try and reflect on the thoughts of what we've been talking about on Nation of Sleepers for the last 6 months. and also the wider picture of what's going on in the country. And we'll pick up on that next week, in regards to Keir Starmer, etc. But, ultimately, you can really see that we've started to go down this massive existential decline in the West. And if we don't deal with this immediately, this is where we're going to really suffer, and you'll get a brain drain. Talent and wealth will leave the country if they feel that there's nothing left to be done, and it will leave a group of very angry, disenfranchised people who've got a heritage attached to that particular nation, and they've just been completely overruled and overwhelmed by their own people who've allowed in less savoury aspects of the world, which everyone else in the world, China, Russia, America, they must all just be looking on at the UK and other Western countries and just thinking, what are you doing? We can't trust you anymore. How can we be your chief intelligence sharing allies if you're going to allow your country to go down these absolutely ideological driven routes? And I get that. So we really, in the UK, we need to sort of get behind the force and unite to reclaim our country, because if we don't, we're not going to leave anything for our future descendants. And as Edmund Burke talked about it, society is a contract between those who are living, those who are yet to be born, and those who have died. It's a long continuum, and we can't allow it to be destroyed on our watch, can we? We need to coalesce around whether it's a political party, a political movement, whether it's a mass movement, and we need to actually stand our ground and say, what, we are going to fight for this now. And I'm not talking about going to violence in the streets. What I am talking about is looking at the ideals which made us great, and we can do that by relaying back to history and bringing them back into fashion and teaching our young that it's okay to honour and respect the glories of, past generations, because they, through the sum of their efforts, have created the world that we've inherited. And do we want to be the ones that just let that all go to waste? No. So I think that it's a good reflection. It's been a good time to reflect on what's going on in the wider UK, and also just to make sure that we can keep going forward with Nation of Sleepers as soon as I get back to the UK.